So Pluto, that little icy world way out there, used to be a planet. These days, some big-shot scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kaku are saying it might crash into Neptune. How could that even happen? What would it do? Is this just a weird space thing? Or is there more to it? Let's look into this Pluto-Neptune smash-up idea. Pluto's not a planet anymore. It's a dwarf planet because of its weird orbit. But scientists are still really interested in it. Some recent studies show Pluto's path gets super close to Neptune's. Guys like Tyson and Kaku are worried they could really crash. That could even mess things up for Earth. But how could that happen? Pluto goes around the Sun differently than all the other planets. It takes 248 years to go around just once. Since we found it in 1930, it hasn't even finished one trip. Plus, its orbit isn't round like the others. It's more like an oval. And to top it off, it's tilted at an angle compared to the rest of the solar system. Here's the craziest part. For about 20 years of its orbit, Pluto is actually closer to the Sun than Neptune. So why haven't they bumped into each other yet? The answer is gravity. The other big planets pull on them. People started studying Pluto's orbit as soon as they saw it. It was weird, not like anything else. It went all over the place. But somehow, Pluto's orbit stays pretty stable. It's all about how Pluto, Neptune, and the Sun pull on each other. It's hard to figure out exactly how they'll move. Basically, when Pluto crosses Neptune's path, it's always far away from Neptune, so they don't hit. And when Pluto gets close to Neptune or another big planet, it's above them, so there's no crash. There's also a thing called VZK wobbling, where the Sun and Pluto mess with each other's gravity, keeping Pluto steady. Even though Pluto's orbit looks crazy, this wobbling helps it stay put. These forces make sure Pluto doesn't hit Neptune or fly off somewhere. Understanding this three-body problem helps us understand Pluto, our solar system, and even other stuff out in space. Back in the 80s, some computer stuff showed that even with all this, Pluto's orbit is still a little wild. Tiny changes could make big differences over millions of years. But it stayed steady for a long time. More recent computer models show how Jupiter and Saturn also pull on Pluto. For every 2 trips Pluto makes around the Sun, Neptune makes 3. That helps keep Pluto steady. Jupiter's gravity alone is strong enough to keep Pluto in a good orbit for billions of years. All these planets work together to keep Pluto out of trouble. These forces keep our solar system in order. If not, planets like Pluto could crash or get thrown out. Understanding Pluto's orbit helps us understand how our solar system works. Pluto shows us that even wild orbits can be stable because of gravity. It also shows us we need to keep looking and learning to understand our place in space. Pluto's orbit shows us that space is weird. Even small changes can mess things. These computer models help us see how Pluto and other stuff pull on each other. We can change small things and see how they affect Pluto's orbit. Back in the 80s, these models showed that even though things keep Pluto steady, it can still be wild. Even a tiny change can make a big difference over time. But even with all that, Pluto's orbit stays pretty much the same for billions of years. It's really hard to guess what's going to happen with space stuff, especially with wild orbits like Pluto's. Even though computers help us, we can't be sure about anything. A small mistake can change everything. Pluto's crazy orbit reminds us that the universe is always changing. We're learning a lot, but Pluto shows us there's still so much we don't know. Understanding how the big planets pull on Pluto helps us understand how the solar system works. Where each planet is makes a big difference for everything else. So why are scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson worried about Pluto hitting Neptune? Tyson says that calling Pluto a dwarf planet shows we're learning more about the solar system. He thinks Pluto's weird orbit shows we still have a lot to learn. He knows that Pluto could get close to Neptune or even crash into it. Michio Kaku also worries about Pluto's future. He looks at the math and says that even though Pluto's orbit looks good now, it might not stay that way. Small changes in gravity could cause a crash. Kaku says Pluto's orbit is risky. We need to keep watching it. Current models say a crash is unlikely soon, but space is weird, so we can't rule it out. Gravity can do crazy things over time. This uncertainty brings us back to the main point. The more we learn about space, the more we realize we don't know. Studying Pluto helps us learn about planets, gravity, and the rules of the universe. As scientists keep watching Pluto and Neptune, they might find new things that change our minds. The idea of a crash might seem crazy, but it reminds us how many mysteries space still holds. As we get better at exploring space, we can get better at guessing what will happen. But a Pluto-Neptune crash is a good example of how weird and unpredictable our solar system can be. Whether it happens or not, it shows that space is always changing. Pluto's story tells us to think outside the box and be ready for surprises. It reminds us that we've only just started to scratch the surface of what's out there. Whether Pluto and Neptune stay safe or crash one day, only time will tell. As we learn more about space, Pluto's story reminds us of all the things we still don't know. The idea of a crash, however unlikely, makes us keep asking questions about the universe. As we learn more about space exploration, the tools we use to study planets like Pluto are getting better. We have new telescopes, missions, and computer models that let us watch these planets better than ever before. Our understanding of these distant worlds is getting better all the time. Pluto is still interesting even though it's not a planet anymore. Pluto may not be a planet, but it's still important. Its story has made people argue about what a planet is and how our knowledge of space is always changing. This exploration of Pluto's path reminds us that science is always changing. What we think today might be wrong tomorrow. A crash between Pluto and Neptune might never happen, but it shows that space is unpredictable. We can only guess so much, and even the best guesses can be wrong. Learning about space helps us understand how the universe works. By studying Pluto, we're learning about gravity and how it affects everything. These ideas aren't just for our solar system, but for all the planets out there. Studying Pluto also shows that it's important for scientists to work together. Physicists, astronomers, and mathematicians all help study Pluto. This teamwork helps us understand how planets move and how the solar system stays balanced. Even though Pluto probably won't hit Neptune, it reminds us that it's hard to guess about distant objects in space. Space is crazy, and even the most stable stuff can suddenly change. We need to keep watching Pluto and be ready for surprises. As we explore space, we keep running into the unknown. Pluto's story makes us wonder and want to learn more. Even as we learn about the planets in our solar system, there's still so much more to learn. The possibility of a future crash makes us want to keep searching for knowledge. The movements of Pluto might seem small, but they show how the universe works. The way Pluto, Neptune, and the other planets pull on each other shows how space is connected. Everything is moving, and even small stuff can affect big stuff. Overall, Pluto's story and its possible crash with Neptune isn't just about those two planets. It's about trying to understand the universe. It reminds us that no matter how much we learn, there's always more to find out. The universe is full of surprises, and as our technology gets better, we'll keep finding them. The idea of Pluto and Neptune crashing, while unlikely, reminds us of the mysteries that are still out there in space. We don't know what will happen to Pluto's orbit, but we're learning more all the time. As we study how planets pull on each other, we remember how big and complicated the universe is. Pluto's story is still being written, and each new thing we learn helps us understand the solar system better. The way Pluto, Neptune, and other stuff in the solar system pull on each other shows how amazing the universe is. Even though a crash is unlikely, studying these planets helps us see the mysteries of space. The universe is huge, but with each new thing we find, we get a little closer to understanding it. How could this happen? Well, Pluto's trip around the Sun is super strange. It takes 248 years to go around just once. Since we found it in 1930, it hasn't even finished a single orbit. Plus, its orbit isn't round like the other planets. It's stretched out like an oval. Making things more complicated, Pluto's orbit is tilted, unlike all the other planets. One interesting thing is that for about 20 years of its orbit, Pluto gets closer to the Sun than Neptune does. So why haven't they crashed yet? Because other planets, especially the big ones, pull on them with gravity. People started studying Pluto's orbit as soon as we found it. Astronomers were confused by its odd path. It was different from all the other planets. Even though it's weird, Pluto's orbit is steady. When Pluto crosses Neptune's orbit, it stays far away enough that they don't hit. Also, Pluto moves up and down a bit, so when it's nearest Neptune, it's also above Neptune's orbit, an extra layer of safety. There's also something called VZK wobbling. That's named after some researchers, and it explains how Pluto, Neptune, and the Sun's gravity affect each other, keeping Pluto safe. Without all these things, Pluto might crash into Neptune or fly off into space. These pushes and pulls of gravity are super important for keeping things in order in our solar system. Back in the 80s, some math guys figured out that even with everything keeping it stable, Pluto's orbit is still a bit crazy. Little changes could cause big problems down the road. But so far, it's been fine for billions of years. New computer models show how big planets like Neptune, Jupiter, and Saturn affect Pluto. Pluto and Neptune's orbits are linked. For every 2 trips Pluto makes around the Sun, Neptune makes 3. Jupiter's gravity also helps keep Pluto stable. Together, Neptune, Jupiter, and Saturn keep Pluto from crashing into anything. Understanding Pluto's orbit helps us understand how our solar system works. Pluto shows us that even weird orbits can be stable because of gravity. Pluto's orbit is so sensitive that tiny changes could mess it up. That's why predicting what will happen is hard. While computer models are useful, they aren't perfect. The fact that Pluto's orbit is chaotic reminds us that the universe is always changing. Even though we've learned a lot about space, Pluto reminds us there's still so much we don't know. The gravity from other planets on Pluto shows how everything in the solar system is connected. So why are scientists talking about a collision now? Tyson, who thinks Pluto shouldn't even be a planet, says we are learning all the time. He sees Pluto's crazy orbit as a sign that there's more to discover. He knows a crash is possible. Michio Kaku is another scientist who's worried. He says that even though Pluto's orbit seems okay now, small changes in gravity could still cause a problem. Even though models say a crash is unlikely, we can't rule it out completely. The Sun is going to change one day, which could change the gravity of everything, and that will affect Pluto's orbit. In space, everything's possible because the forces are strong and complicated. That reminds us that the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know. The more accurate we get with telescopes so we can watch the sky, the more likely we are to solve the Pluto mystery. No one knows what will become of it. But we are curious, and we'll keep searching.